happened, a lot of app server companies went down the drain because of commoditization. But I think for the first 5 years, yes, our focus was in getting customers in the US to adopt our platform. And a whole of that was, we had a very minimal sales team in the US, a lot of references, and a lot of consulting did happen to sell the app servers. See, we wrote the whole standards adoption wave. There's already a lot of people looking to adopt standards. People didn't want to lock in their applications they're building. So there was a market which was waiting to be tapped, and which we really tapped pretty well. Ultimately, I think it's the quality of software, right? And it worked out very well. We won a lot of performance benchmarks. We have to prove, we have to show evidence in the platform business that you are really what you are, right? Because it's something, it's an invisible layer. It's not a consumer product. So you really have to come up with the numbers in terms of metrics, in terms of performance, quality of code, etc., etc. And it's an open standards game. Therefore, everybody can see your code. Your competitors can come and pick holes in your code. So you better be very paka about what kind of software writing. So our challenge at that time was getting the team together. Well, I think we were kind of lucky that we got a good startup team in terms of engineering guys whom we could, and both are my CEO and CTO, both of the people are hands-on coders. So we have to start out that way. As a startup in product business, in the platform business, you have to be, like people say, ready to clean the toilet, because you have to be able to do everything, and you should have a team that's very multi-skilled to be able to, because you can't afford to hire somebody just to do that role. This is because your expenses are going to go up. You have to run a very tight ship. You can't have a 100-people product company from day one. You got to have a 5-people product company, show some traction, bootstrap, get some customers, and grow step by step. And I think initially, for about 3 to 4 years, we were a pure product play company, till inquiries started coming in, and we had a few bad years. 2001 was a bad year for everybody, I suppose. 2004 was another bad year. And 2004 is when we really realized that we need to get into consulting and product engineering services. And what we knew, product business, right? Because we've been building products for ourselves. The natural services for us to offer was to help other product companies achieve either scale or accelerate or get off the block. So we had existing customers who wanted applications to be built, right? They had applications to be architected based on JDE. And who better than work with us, because we know the stack. So that's the first place we attacked. So our first services when we rolled out was very much associated with the product which we were building. It was a complementary skill, right? So that worked very well. I think so if you want to really, and that it paid a lot of bills. Mind you, it paid a lot of bills, it kept the rent going, and it really helped the product team to focus on what their goals were. But the key thing is, we were just not offering any ABC service in the market. We were offering very specific services that were complementary to the product which we were actually offering. So that really worked like a slingshot. One thing led to another. We got a lot of customers which were getting cross-referred both from the product side into the services into products. It went on. I think we acquired a big business, and in a few years' time, I think 2006 or 2007, we decided to brand out the services separately, which is now Imagineer. It's an independent unit which just provides services. It's got a life of its own. But today, that's what it looks like. But initially, it's very key that if you are going to support your product business and you don't want to rely completely just on VC money, you want to bootstrap with some services, make sure you choose the right service, because the service can be any low-hanging fruit in the market is a major distraction. Money can be very distracting, and if money distracts, you're not going to make your product. I can assure you that. You got to have that madness. I mean, if you sit in some of the board meetings and some of the product meetings which you have with the CEO, you can just see. I mean, I don't think any accountant can survive that meeting. It's a fact, because we're drawing pictures, we're talking about imaginary numbers, we're talking about markets which we don't even know exist. So that's the bet you take, right? You're going to release a product into the market, you're going to put it in front of a stranger and just hope that he buys it. Okay? So that's really a burn. And if you talk to true product companies, product entrepreneurs, you will find they're very excited by the pain. There's a lot of pain in the business, but people enjoy it. If you're not in that, then it's just cash.
So I think it's a great point that you bring out, and I'm taking cue from what you said, if you're in India, a lot of times cash is just not available to you, and if you're chasing a product or a growth-related company, cash is not available, and services tends to become an easy kind of a distraction channel, whatever you may want to call it. is to start generating cash and pay bills, as what Chandra was saying. So, and rather, you started as a services company and moved to a product. You started as a product, moved to services. What would both your advices be, in terms of, should someone succumb to that temptation? And if someone is succumbing to the temptation of services, how careful do they need to be? Because, it's easy to completely become a services company after, and put your product to the sideline.
So, Rutvik, actually people often ask me, what is the biggest mistake you guys have done? I wouldn't call it a mistake, but the fact that way back in 2010, we were the largest partner for YouTube in the country, and we were making close to 40-50 lakhs a month, and we let go of that because we wanted to chase a dream. And let me just tell you something. If you're trying to build a product like Hulu, you can't be. See, what is the idea? The idea is to actually build a superior video on demand product. So it just doesn't make sense. Didn't make sense for us to actually be a service partner for YouTube and trying to build a product which is competing with YouTube actually. It just was not aligning actually. And that's the reason why. So yeah, if I had continued with the business, it would have been making a lot of money for us. I would have probably survived. So I wouldn't call it a mistake, but yeah, in a market where, sometimes it all depends on your timing actually. We probably would have survived at a different stage. There are a lot of other market factors at play, which is not in your control. We wanted to go to market in May. We ended up going to market to raise money in October. I think that was a big mistake. So in hindsight, we're all wiser. But yeah, if I could have continued with my YouTube business, I would have achieved this. But I just want to reiterate one point actually. See, when we took money, it is very clear it is going to be a growth story. We had clearly laid out what is going to be the path. This is going to be this because like I said earlier, you are taking on a space which is occupied by YouTube, which is synonymous with online video. So how are you going to get people coming onto your product? So you have to ensure that there is traction, people are coming. So our milestones, we never had, even for a single board meeting, a difference of opinion with my board. We are supposed to achieve 3 million unique users by March. We achieved 6 million unique users. We were supposed to, and my budget, we were 15% lower as far as the spend is concerned. Yeah, we wouldn't have been profitable, and it was very clear I didn't have a magic wand, and it was not my decision. It was a unanimous decision that we have to chase certain, this is the way, India is going to be the market, and we all believe that subscription is not the way. We had a subscription engine fully ready. We would have launched it if we survived today. We probably launched it 6 months from March actually. You can't launch a product on day one and expect people to subscribe to that. You have to build a world-class product, get people on board, and if there are exclusive content, maybe open up the channels actually. That's what we are planning to do actually. So I think that was a learning actually. Today, yeah, I'm still not sure which is the right thing to do. It all depends on how the market reacts, how fortunately, unfortunately, how the venture capital industry reacts to that. You could have a portfolio company in your VC who could probably change the equation for you. You could have some company sitting elsewhere who would probably change the whole atmosphere for a bunch of VCs who are probably close to funding you. So a lot of these external factors also hit you badly when you're trying to raise your Series B. So there's no clear-cut answer actually.
Before Chandru goes, I'll just add that since you brought up the topic of VCs and things like, after Chandru speaks, I'll kind of throw in a VC perspective as to how VC thinks. Now I've been an insider in this industry for 2 years. I'll throw in a little bit of my perspective into it.
Yeah,
also.
I just want to touch on that briefly.
Chandru, why don't you answer first?
See, I think regardless of what the VCs want out of you, or they want the sixers in every innings, and you think you're in for the long haul, and you want to take the single runs and keep sustaining more and more. You want to make the dollar really run for a long time, and the VC is going to be interested in cashing out as soon as possible. So I think the thing is that there are a couple of key things. I think one thing is that regardless of where the money comes from, you got to run a very tight ship if you want to be in product business. You got to run a very, very tight ship. I mean, there could be a lot of glamour associated with product companies. I can see it, at least in the media and a few people I've spoken to. There is no worse drudgery than doing product business. Okay? Okay? So there is, and one more thing, I want to just caution. I mean, I see the topic for the session. I think we should stop viewing services as just a mechanism for paying your bills while you pursue your product dreams. If you're going to build your organization that way, you can never, they won't even see eye to eye. It's like, you're having two parts of the organization, one pursuing services, other pursuing products, and they're not going to see eye to eye. You have to believe that the services you're offering, there's a commitment to it, there's an intensity to it, which is the same intensity which is available in products. You got to do that. You got to provide the services for a very high quality. that eventually it pays the bills and keeps the cash flow coming immediately, is a different story. That's okay. But if you're going to treat it only for just paying your bills while you pursue your product dream, that's not going to work. You get me? Because a bad service is going to spoil your product dream. That's not. The reputation is crossed. Nobody's going to view from the market as you. They're going to view you as a single company which is offering both these products and services. One can spoil the other fish. So I think that is, we should not do that. So the kind of service you choose in the market is a very key. It's a slingshot model, right? For us, it's worked very well at least. And it's a slingshot model that products help services, services help products. So you start out a product line, you open up a complementary services line, which is in the same domain, same area. You can get an engineering pool, which can service your products. And then engineering guys who work in your company love this mix. When they can do cross-border operation between products and services, right? They really love it because they get to see both sides of the world. And it's very important. If you think there are good attributes in product engineering, you can bring it to the service side. Which customer will deny? He's not going to say, no customer wants low quality service, right, and pay you low dollars. Everybody wants the best, right? Everybody wants rock stars, right? So we have to bring that value into the services also. If you show that intensity, commitment in services, it's going to really work. Your service business will bloom, your product industry will certainly bloom. I think you got to look at it that way. You should not use services as a whipping boy. That's all.
Thanks, Chandru. So just to add, the VC perspective, I think both Chandru and Radha mentioned the Indian VCs a couple of times in their thing. So I just thought I'll add a few of my perspective.
I'm not getting into VC bashing.
So I'll just add. I think I'll add some of my perspectives as to what I've learned now. After spending 2 years, I think it should probably be useful for the audience here. If you think of the startup ecosystem, as a food pipe thing. In India today, I think the mouth or the front is actually flourishing. It's like gourmet food over there. The very fact that we are having this NASSCOM event and there are like 1,000+ delegates attending this, each and every session running full house, tells you that a lot of stuff is happening in the front where people are jumping in, people are creating businesses. But the unfortunate reality is the other end of the food pipe, at least in India, is completely constipated. And when I say constipated, it means we are not seeing enough exits. Whether we like it or not, the relationship between a VC and a entrepreneur is a wedding. It's like a marriage with a pre-decided divorce going to happen in 5 years down the line, agreement in place. So it's like a prenup agreement thing saying, hey, we'll be in bed for 5 years, but after 5 years, we're going to sign the divorce papers. And to sign those divorce papers, somebody else needs to come in and, take the entrepreneur, whether it's in the form of an IPO or in the form of an M&A, etc. So now when you contrast it with the US ecosystem, in US you have, if I were to just name, take names like Google, Facebook, or even the previous generation companies like Cisco, all of them acquire one company every week. And those acquisitions happen either largely because of growth or largely because of talent, in addition to, revenue-based acquisitions. You don't see that happening in India. Today none of these foreign companies have acquired anything in India. And the domestics, the Ambanis or the Tatas or Birlas who are sitting with lots of money, they don't buy anything within the Indian ecosystem. So we are in a kind of a vicious loop where it's constipated at one end. So the only thing that from a VC perspective that can give them comfort is that, hey, does cash exist in the system or not? Because at the end of the day, cash is king. Even when an exit happens in US on a growth story like in Instagram, eventually the VCs and the founders get cash, right? And cash is king. That's what everybody looks for. Now, in absence of those kind of events, you unfortunately have to look for real cash which flows into the company in terms of revenues, license fees, subscription fees, whatever you may call it. And that's the view that the VCs end up taking. So that's the...
But I think acquisitions can become a reality. I mean, we had a success story a few months, end of last year, right?
Yeah, so we've had, if you look at across all the VCs, most VC firms have had one or two exits so far. Within, I think we had one, Redbus, a few months back, which was a big success.
Right.
Just Dial happened this year, which was a big success for the VC. It's not that it's not happening, but 3 in a year
Okay.
versus 3 happening a week in the US, there's a huge difference. So that I think that's what the difference. Sorry, rather you.
No, I was just saying, again, it depends from industry to industry, from segment to segment. You look at a digital media company, and which is basing its business model on ad-supported model. Unless you reach a particular point, nobody takes you seriously. Which means, unless you have at least 5 million unique users, the entire ecosystem is not going to take you seriously.
Correct.
So that's something which everybody needs to understand. You can't. There is a set product cycle. I mean, there is at least a 15-month cycle where you need to reach that particular number before your partners take you seriously. So that once you do that, in fact, the last 6 months of our existence, we were making 50 lakhs, in terms of pure ad revenue, and on CPM, in case you guys understand that, which was far better than anybody in the market. It was like 250 to 300 rupees per CPM actually. So there are certain things which we set out to achieve. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to sort of take it to the next level. And let me also tell you, it is not just a VC, who needs to understand this way. It is also the complete ecosystem. You are betting your digital media on the entire internet growth story. Everybody needs to believe in that. It includes your brands. It includes your, your agencies. Digital is probably the most transparent of all mediums. You are putting in thousands of crores in television, depending on 10,000 people meters, which is absolutely not at all transparent. Here it's a medium which is so transparent, but people are still not willing to bet on that. So unless the digital ad spends go up, it's going to be, again, if you're chasing this growth story, it's going to be a tight ship actually. That's obviously is another point actually.
Excellent point, Radha. I think to sum it up, what you said was, to chase a growth story, it is not just you or, or 2 or 3 players. It's the entire ecosystem which needs to believe it and be an early adopter. And that includes consumers also. Consumers also have to be early adopters over there. Now, in the interest of time, I think we have, 5 to 7